I call this meeting of the Clear Creek Independent School District to order. Let the record show the quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been duly called and its notice has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. And with that, community input, I don't believe we have any. All right. And next item on the agenda is our consent.
Mr. President, I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Any other discussion? No? All in favor, please raise your right hand. No opposed. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is our budget update.
Yes, and so Ms. Benzai will present a 25-26 budget update.
Okay, good afternoon. So today's presentation will cover our proposed budgets for the General Fund, Debt Service Fund, and Child Nutrition Fund. These are all of the budgets that you as a Board of Trustees are required to approve annually. So there's various timelines that we are subjected to when going through the budget and tax rate process. August 20th is our deadline for districts to prepare a proposed budget. So the documents you have today are the proposed budgets. August 15th is the deadline for us to publish the notice of public meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate. And it must be published 10 to 30 days before the August 25th board meeting. So today we'll go through that notice so that you're familiar with it, and we plan to submit it to the Galveston Daily News for publishing by the end of the week. The proposed budget that will be presented at the August 25th board meeting, at which a public hearing will be held as well. And as a reminder, you vote on the tax rate at the September board meeting along with the certified tax roll. After that is done, then our tax office, by about mid-October, our tax office will be able to prepare and mail the tax bills. So in looking at this is a summary of our budget projections. We have the General Fund, Debt Service, and Child Nutrition Fund. I wanted to first talk about the General Fund, which is the first column up here. Back on July 14th, I presented a General Fund budget with a $13.5 million deficit. This included approximately $1 million in expenditures due to the potential freeze that we are looking at of our title funds. And since that time, we've received notice from TEA that those funds would be released and provided for fiscal year 2026. So I was able to remove those expenditures back out of the budget. And so now the estimated budget deficit that we're looking at is $12.5 million. Wanted to go through just a few of the assumptions that go into our budget. As you see here, our tax rate. This budget is presented with an unchanged tax rate from 2024. The maximum compressed rate was approved by TEA last month. It is 61.9 cents. And on top of that are 8 pennies, golden pennies, that the board has approved for a total of 69.9 cents per $100 of assessed value. Also, the funding changes provided under House Bill 2 have been incorporated into this budget. The budget includes a compensation plan that was approved by the board in July, and it also includes significant increases in areas such as special education, maintenance, technology, and transportation. Attendance, or our average daily attendance, ADA, is estimated at 36,450. This includes a reduction per our demographer estimates, along with a slight increase to account for full-day funding in our early childhood special ed classrooms this year. So just as a comparison, we landed last year, 24-25, at about 36,764. So we are reducing our estimates again, and that's all based on what the demographers have projected. And finally, one of the key components of our revenue estimates is our tax base. Our estimates reflect a 3% decline in taxable value, primarily due to the increase in the state mandated homestead exemption from $100,000 to $140,000. One unknown is the impact of our freeze accounts for our over 65 and disabled homeowners, as these accounts all have to be recalculated. So we've tried to be conservative with our revenue estimates, and we'll be able to refine those estimates in the fall as our tax office starts working on those. So you do see the $12.5 million deficit. At this point, I'm assuming that our budget for 24-25 will end balanced. So the fund balance you see here remains unchanged since August 31st of 2024. One thing I have not included in this budget is a transfer from capital and contingency funds at this time. We're going to reserve the funds in capital and contingency and transfer the funds over to the general fund once we start going through the year and have a better idea of what that's going to look like. Next year is going to be a challenging year as we enter the second year of the biennium. And so we know that in the second year of the biennium, fiscal year 27, our estimated deficit will grow due to the anticipated continued decline in our enrollment. We're working on a plan this fall to look at proposed budget reductions to minimize that deficit. So before I move on to the debt service fund, I'd be happy to answer any questions that come up on the general fund this morning. All right, so moving on to the debt service fund. This budget is presented. A few points I wanted to make about this budget. It is funded. The debt service budget is funded by 27 cents on our tax rate to pay our annual principal and interest on our outstanding debt. We have a very healthy fund balance in this fund of almost $44 million, which exceeds our board policy of 10% of debt payments by approximately $32.3 million. So looking back about 10 years ago, our debt rate was at 36 cents, and over the years we have brought that debt rate down. The most recent reduction was in tax year 2021. We brought it from 29 cents to 27 cents. So when we went out for the bond election a few years ago, our models at the time reflected that we could sell that debt with no tax rate increase. What the models did not reflect was the impact that the legislative changes to increase the state mandated homestead exemptions from 40,000 to 100, then a couple years later from 100,000 to 140. We did not anticipate that would happen and the impact that it would have on our tax base. So the state does provide us hold harmless funds, and you'll see under the debt service fund state sources, that's the $19 million that's presented there, and that is to cover the loss in tax value that we've had from all of these state homestead exemption increases. As you recall, we did sell our remaining bond funds last month, meaning that these bonds will be eligible for the new hold harmless funding from the state that we will receive. I did want to note we won't maximize our hold harmless funding this year because our tax revenue is actually less than our debt payments. And the only alternative to maximize those funds would be to increase our debt tax rate, which under these circumstances, since our fund balance is currently $43.9 million, we don't recommend increasing the tax rate at this time. So one of the things that I did want to show you, and this is one of the things we work on with our financial advisors, is really looking. We actually have a 20-year projection on our debt service fund, and so in looking at how to what tax rate to set, we're showing you here the next 5 years what it will look like in the debt service fund. And we anticipate the need, as you can see, for the next 4 years to dip into fund balance a little bit. But then that starts to turn by 2030. So this is assuming no new bond election. It's assuming 3% property value growth. And you can see that it does, we have enough in our fund balance to cover those deficits. If you look at the end of 2030, which was the last column, at our fund balance, August 31st, we would end with a $16.1 million fund balance. Our fund balance policy is to have at least 10.9, and so we would still have a surplus there. So, we'll watch, of course, the tax values over time, but I feel comfortable. I think this was our understanding back when we were looking at the bonds in 2023. We knew we would have to dip a little bit into fund balance. So this is the only reason you would need a surplus in here. Really, you just need the funds to cover your debt payments. So as long as your tax rate is sufficient to do that, you should not need more than 10% of your fund balance in this particular fund.
Ms. Benson?
Yes.
I guess that's with the exception if we had a disaster issue where we had to expend more money than we would have covered for any major repairs, or we'd still be okay?
So that's outside of this fund because this fund is solely to pay principal and interest on our debt. So the 27 cents that we charge it solely goes into this fund, and it can't be used for any other purpose but to pay principal and interest. So any disaster pennies, those would be accounted for in the general fund.
Thank you.
And just to jump back on the projected budgets, we also have our child nutrition fund. You'll see here it's a balanced budget. They bring in funds from fees that students pay, breakfast and lunch meals, and also from federal sources. So they have a balanced budget here with a $13 million anticipated fund balance as well. So any questions on those proposed budgets before I move on? Okay. So I wanted to finally I broke down the notice that's going in the paper for you just so you could see and be aware of what exactly is included in this notice. As I mentioned, it will be published by week's end. And really the purpose of this notice is to notify our taxpayers about the date of our public meeting to discuss the budget and tax rate, our proposed tax rate, our appraised and taxable values, and the impact of the proposed tax levy on average residences. So on this particular, it's a one-pager, but on this particular slide, you'll see we're telling them when the public hearing is going to be, August 25th at 6 p.m., the purpose of the meeting, and also the tax rate that's proposed, which is listed here, 69.9 cents for maintenance and 27 cents for the debt service. Also, it compares our proposed budget with last year's budgets, and the percentages are listed at the bottom. We also provide our total appraised value and total taxable value for last year and for the current year. And so taxpayers can see that. You'll see the impact of that state homestead exemption. If you look at the second row, the third row, the total taxable value of all property, you can see that last year it was $33.8 billion. It's come down to $31.6 billion. And we've had some property growth, some value growth in there, but it's that increase in that exemption was so large that it brought the overall value or taxable value down. It also provides taxpayers with our bonded indebtedness. So we currently have $1.1 billion in principal outstanding on all of our bonds. We also are providing the public with information about last year's tax rate, the rate that would be needed to maintain the same level of maintenance and operations revenue and pay debt service, and then our proposed tax rate. We break it down between local revenue per student, state and revenue per student. And then one item I always find interesting is the second half of this compares our levy on our average residence from between last year and this year. So you can see last year our average taxable value of residences, that's taxable value, not market value, was $257,224. It's going down the average almost by the $40,000 increase in the homestead to $220,697. And you can see that the average taxpayer decrease in taxes will be $353.95 for Clear Creek ISD. And finally, the final piece of this document provides the voter approval tax rate. So any tax rate that was adopted that's over the proposed rate would require an election. And then also fund balances. This provides our estimated fund balance in the general fund and in the debt service or interest and sinking fund at year's end. So that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Benzai. Open it up. Any questions? No questions. Thank you, Ms. Benzai. We appreciate all your time and attention getting this put together. All right. Ready to move on? So strategic research, design framework update.
Well, thank you. Well, we are excited. We have several guests here, and we are going to share some exploration team updates with you and some of our exciting projects that we have going on. So as we go through and look at that, just to kind of share a little bit of the background and going through to that next slide. Last year in the strategic plan, we're always, our vision of empowering students with that world-class education that ignites passions and fuels endeavors. And part of that strategic plan was to adopt a process for chartering and executing exploration goals and really thinking of big ideas and how can we implement those. What are some big ideas, and let's look at those and let's see what we can do to explore them and then bring those to the trustees. And really looking at that culture of innovation and continuous improvement. And that's that system that we've created. So our framework, and we created this last year to have exploration teams just to look at big ideas, and then following that up with a development team if it looks like it can move forward, and then to implementation, evaluation, and then we also have a sprint team if we need to do something very quickly, and we've done that in the past too. So this is our framework. And I wanted to take a step back just for a minute. We're going to start with our stream of innovation for intermediate, and I think that's the next slide. But before we share this video with you, just a minute and kind of refresh everybody's memory. I went back and looked. So the board in the spring of 23 unanimously approved Vision 2030. And just as a reminder, Vision 2030, we were going to offer pre-K to all families if they were interested, and we are. That's here. We'll become a leader in the district by 2030, and very much on track for that. Excited about that. We want our students to graduate exemplifying a profile of a learner, and we're working towards that. And then finally, intermediate schools will be nationally recognized as centers of innovation, creation, and collaboration. And so really focusing in on intermediate schools. And just as just kind of a refresher as we jump into this exploration team, Vision 2030 work said we would redesign intermediate school learning systems from scheduling and curriculum offerings to physical space and technology so that the profile of a CCISD learner is the focal point of a child's learning experience, and that every student will have the opportunity to pursue their passions and interests. And that's what we wrote back in the spring of 23. And along with that, to expand career exploration and interest-based offerings for students in grades 6 through 8, so that that exposure to and understanding of high school career technical education programming is developed before grade 9 so they can understand. So leveraging community partnerships, mentorships, and real-world experiences to support this recommendation. So last year we created Launch. We launched Launch, if you will, just for that purpose. And so that was all sixth graders participated in the Launch course. And this afternoon, we are going to share an update on the stream of innovation, the work that's going on for intermediate schools, for school-wide stream of innovation. Excited. We're starting with Space Center Intermediate. And so we're going to begin with a video that we created, and we're going to talk about that work that's going on right now.
That we set them up for success.
Students will also dive into one-of-a-kind stream projects like biotechnology in space.
They will complete a project which requires them to step into the role of a molecular biologist who is investigating a potential source of food contamination that has occurred on the International Space Station.
Having a chance to make things and work through things in the library that they would not usually get to work through in their classroom.
Space Center will offer new robotics and coding electives. 8th graders will be able to earn high school credit through Project Lead the Way, a nationally recognized engineering program normally reserved for high school students. It will now be exclusively offered at Space Center Intermediate School. Students participate in cardinal clubs based on their passions, from 3D printing to coding to math games.
They were really fun because we got my brain refreshed for the day, and it was making me ready to get ready.
There is a new one that NASA's hosting, which is called the Sparks Club, trying to get the Mars rover back to Mars.
At Space Center Intermediate, STREAM is just the beginning of a journey filled with innovation and leadership. Join us and be part of tomorrow's future.
We have some exciting things to share, an update now, and Mr. Moses is kind of leading that. And just to share, we do have exploration, development, and implementation work all around stream of innovation at the intermediate level going on concurrently this year. And he's going to talk about that, and Mr. DiNardo is here to talk about specifics with Space Center Intermediate, so I'll turn it over to y'all.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Engel. We're excited about this opportunity to present to you guys stream of innovation at the intermediate level. We have developed a district team that is continuously looking at expanding this. Mr. DiNardo is here today. He'll be sharing specifically what we're looking at doing at Space Center Intermediate. But this district development team is mapping out a plan for the future for planning as well as implementation at all 10 intermediate schools. So we're super excited about that. Last year, Dr. Thornton, who was the principal at that time at Space Center, along with Dr. Mackay, led a group of teachers and coaches and community members there at Space Center to develop what you're about to hear from Mr. DiNardo as far as the plan for Space Center Intermediate. And we went out and visited with 3 campus principals already at Clear Lake Intermediate, Victory Lakes Intermediate, and Clear Creek Intermediate as we begin the planning process for these 3 campuses looking for implementation in 26-27. And that kickoff meeting is about 2.5 weeks away. And so we're going to bring all 3 campuses together to kick it off and really build upon their experiences that they have and really make sure that we do exactly what we did at the Space Center, which was honor what they currently do, but involve a stream focus of some sort at each campus and then give each student that's there an opportunity to experience a world-class education. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Denard, who will share Space Center.
Thank you, guys. So it's really important to me, like Mr. Moses said, that we lean into the great things Space Center does. So we're a 7 Habits campus, and so my goal is to marry the two and make sure that we're still relying on those 7 habits and take off with the stream. And I really framed this with my staff, boulders, rocks, and pebbles. So the boulders are the huge projects we have district supported, coding, the Cambridge math curriculum, as well as in the future is our engineering. And as a former dean of instruction, I know what our parents want, and they're going to see that high school credit in engineering, and they're going to jump at it. The other large things that we're doing with our coordinators are the core projects. You kind of saw a little bit of it. There's GIS, which is satellite imaging with our social studies curriculum, and learning how that shaped the development of our country. I'm really excited for our science program. They're doing some bioinformatics. They're doing an experiment I did with my AP Bio kids when I was a teacher. So the fact that we're able to do that in our 8th grade classroom is really, really encouraging. And then I framed with my staff, they're in charge of the pebbles. So how do we implement that throughout the school day? So how do our teachers make that really happen within the school day and bring those principles of STREAM? Being that we're Space Center, we're really focusing a lot on space and the technology piece. So we're doing a lot of micro-credentialing, and I bring up the Leader in Me framework because our Lighthouse team incorporates students, and we're hearing from them. We have meetings with them once every few weeks, and so the things they want to do, we want to offer to them. So we're doing semester-long micro-credentialing. I love that we have a laser engraver for our shop class. We've got coding, video game design. There's a student trying to make a rocket club, so I have to figure out how we're going to do that safely. But those are the type of things we want to embed within our school day and just continue leading the way and seeing how far we can go with it.
We're super excited. Mr. Donardo's in this role and picking the ball up and running with it. He's got a great staff over there, as he said, that is looking forward to finding ways to incorporate the STREAM idea within the classrooms. And recognizing those teachers, right, that actually stretch their curriculum and their teaching and their instruction to include STREAM. Yeah, he's figured out a way to kind of validate that effort for the teachers and to help encourage it throughout the campus. So super excited about what's happening at our intermediate level, but super excited about what's going to be happening in Space Center this upcoming year. So with that, we'll turn it back to Dr.
Okay, and thought we just take a pause, and if you have any comments or questions after each one, because we are going to rotate around our guest because we're kind of tight here, and so in our physical surroundings. So if that's okay, if there's any questions, we would turn it back over to you for that.
All right. Thank you. All right, I'll open it up. Questions, comments?
Just one comment that the pace at which you're doing this is picking up, and that's good to see. We're being way more nimble than we used to be. Stuff like this probably would have taken years and years, and we're doing it in a compressed time frame. And we have to do that to kind of compete and keep up. So just proud of that effort.
Thank you. My question was, so the expansion of it to the Clear Lake, Victory Lakes, and Clear Creek, this isn't necessarily a magnet program, right? We're not looking at creating a new magnet program, or are we?
Each intermediate will have a focus area out of the STREAM concept to where they will offer a specific course elective, if you will, that will be related to their primary focus. As with Space Center, they're doing robotics and coding, and they're also doing engineering essentials to prepare for that. So each one of those will have that opportunity. Those on that campus will have first shot for the program, and then if we have other opportunities, we will backfill with that, much like what we've done with our eSTEM and our RCC.
So I think that's what I was really trying to get to, is backfilling it with, families of students that are interested on other campuses that we would be able to fill in with those students. Any other questions? Mr. Nara, we're excited to see how you do at Space Center. Great things. You're the right guy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I understand you have a strong science background. Looking forward to it. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Okay. All right, and so we'll move on while we're transitioning, if that's okay. We have the big header stream, but really we want to tell you some updates on our college preparatory program, which we are really looking at aerospace engineering or space science, space engineering, you know, but focusing in on that area beginning in 26. So we are ready to launch a program in 26. Dr. Laura Mackay, Coordinator of Innovative Programs, and Mr. Stanley Zavala, Director of Academics, will provide a charter update, and we are absolutely in the development stage of that. And I'll turn that over to y'all.
So we're very excited to be here and have a chance to talk to you about College Prep Stream. And the STREAM High School program is a little bit different from the STREAM Intermediate program. So STREAM in high school stands for Space, Technology, Robotics, Engineering, and Advanced Medicine. In the middle school, we put in Fine Arts. But in the high school, eventually, we hope to have that advanced medicine piece. So our moonshot, as you will, or our lofty goal, is we want to develop a new space engineering curriculum that will eventually be shared across the state of Texas. And if you remember, Governor Abbott gave a charge to make Texas the #1 space economy in the world. And so space engineering is a little bit different than aerospace. So we have Project Lead the Way aerospace at 3 of our high schools. But space engineering is more about living and communicating on the moon and Mars. The construction, the communication that happens in outer space, not so much the rockets. And that is not something that's been done in public school anywhere in the nation. So we are working together with a group of amazing people and partners trying to make that reality, to design a new curriculum for our students. So our dream is to be able to offer high school credit, dual enrollment credit, partner with NASA JSC to offer that high school aerospace scholars designation. We think that would be an awesome perk for our students to all walk out with that also. And then maybe some kind of certificate of completion from a top-notch respected university. So that's sort of like our moonshot, our lofty goal. If you can see on our next slide, our student profile, we are really looking at the students who are part of this program, advanced academics with a university level experience. We want to give them a college level experience when they're juniors and seniors in high school. And one of the things that Dr. Engel really hit home with our committee is that they will still stay on their home high schools. So we're not going to do a school within a school or create a magnet school that pulls them away. You would stay at your home high school and do your core content and then travel either the morning or afternoon to do this specialized space engineering program. And so we're really excited to see that structure. I think it will be amazing for our kids. And then Mr. Zavala is going to tell you a little bit more about our details.
All right. So we are still actively pursuing partnerships with higher education and other key entities that are associated with this work. And then for the Texas Space Commission, that was a hard word for me to say apparently, the grant, we did apply for a grant. We remain in consideration for it, and we're still hoping for positive outcomes, so there's still a chance, right? In addition, we've actually applied to become a member of the Texas Space Commission, and if accepted, we'd be the first K-12 institution to ever be a member of it. And then we are collaborating with the Aldrin Foundation, which is ran by Dr. Andy Aldrin, who's the son of Buzz Aldrin. Most of us have heard that name. They were recently awarded a grant from the Space Commission to develop spacecraft and satellite curriculum, and we are proud to be included in that initiative, and we'll begin planning with their team next week, so looking forward to that. So all of this is creating something that hasn't been done. I know we keep calling it the moonshot. I wrote on my notes moonshot and I struck it out and put Mars shot because I feel like we're going even beyond with all of this. So that's it.
Yeah, so questions, comments? The experts are in the room.
Open up. Anybody?
Yeah, I have a question for Dr. Mackay. What do you want for dinner tonight?
Y'all are- I'm certainly not an expert in this field, but this is totally amazing to me. I'm like one of those that's wide-eyed and going, oh my gosh, we're going to do this right here in Clear Creek School District. So congratulations. Thank you. This is going to be so exciting to watch. So thank you for your time, your effort. And I'm like a little kid all of a sudden. It's exciting. So thank you.
I think that you mentioned the Space Commission grant, and I know even in a short time, they've done a number of announcements and awards. I imagine, based on this last legislative session, opportunities will continue, even if this current submission isn't one that hits a threshold that they would award. And I suspect, based on what we've seen, at least awarded, something in the high school space is going to stand out as a public school district with a high school opportunity. So thank you all for taking that. And in full disclosure, I have just a super strong bias. Just want to say that. I hear bits and pieces from the team because I know they've really enjoyed getting the chance to talk about what the possibilities are, and recognizing that some of the things that you all are identifying really build on a legacy of programs that have offered statewide opportunities to the best of the best, but thinking about offering it to more students here locally that isn't limited by the highest academic scoring or achieving student, but that ultimately gives them that exposure, I think is really, really important. It's a great opportunity, so thank you all for doing that. I'm looking forward just to see how it evolves.
You and Jessica are supposed to be our ringers.
Yeah, well.
I'm a little biased. I love high school aerospace scholars. I mean, back in the day, I wrote the curriculum for most of it, so to be able to see it come into our curriculum, I'm super excited.
Did not know that.
I'm just very interested in seeing how this develops and what directions it goes in. Is there a point of contact? Is there an individual or an organization that is kind of heading this up at the high school level? Is that?
Yeah, we've got a team, and really Dr. Mackay and Mr. Zavala have been working. They created like the course, kind of a course of study outline, if you will. Gosh, it's been quite a while. I've been working on this for a while. And then working with these partners, such as the Aldrin Foundation, to really make that curriculum a reality. And they have that curriculum that would be embedded then in potentially in this coursework. So we've got a team that's working on that. So definitely Dr. Mackay can put your name out there. And
we'd love to visit with you.
Yes.
We're open to ideas.
Yeah.
And where I was going with this, I don't mean to interrupt, but I was just curious if this was in any kind of form that is ready to share with us or not, or when we could get an update on this. Well, I know I personally would be very interested in that.
We've had some meetings last week with the university, and we'll continue to have multiple. So I would say probably as we continue in this development stage, just looking at potentially some partnerships and solidifying those, and then we can move forward. We've had a lot of contact with the NASA and some of the education support staff out there.
Excellent.
And it's happening fast because we're going through a new course this fall. So you'll have it in your lab this fall. It'll be completed for the junior year.
Thank you.
Real quick, let me say one other thing.
Oh, sorry.
See, I always wait till
the president.
No, I just really, Jameson's question is very important. But so, going back to your comments about in 2023, whenever we talked about, our vision statement and becoming providing a world-class education, and that charge was put out there for y'all. And, to all the comments that were made, that's, y'all are doing it. We're seeing it. we're excited to see it evolve and how it all comes to fruition. There's no reason for us not to. We've got NASA in our backyard. We've said that what's going to set us apart is to be competitive. There's been some legislative changes that makes all of this so much more important, that we can provide those opportunities that other districts aren't and can't. So we appreciate it. Keep the charge going. Y'all are doing a great job. We appreciate it very much. So now you can.
That feels good.
Okay. All right.
All right, so our next exploration team on virtual learning that has moved into the development phase this summer. So Kelly Lane, Director of Learning Technology, has led this team through the exploration phase and looking at new possibilities for virtual learning. She's now leading a team into the development phase. And Paula Bruton, Learning Technology Specialist, is here and joining her to provide an update. And you did receive an update from them in your Friday information several weeks ago. So they're just going to give you some more information on that.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having us today. We're super excited because even after watching the first two presentations, it just confirms or affirms how we are looking at other flexible options for our students in their learning journey. And so we were focusing on the virtual learning. So our goal is to explore the possibility of establishing a virtual school. And then we are wanting to provide flexible, personalized, and high-quality learning experiences for our students. And to do so, we really focused initially on the primary three things of the flexibility of it, the accessibility of it, and the accountability. So we were looking at the different benefits that having a virtual learning option for our students would provide for them. And that includes increased flexibility in learning schedules. We know we have students with special interests, including athletics, arts, or other extracurricular activities. And so having a virtual learning program at their fingertips would be able to allow them to pursue their passions and have a commitment to those passions, but continue their academic journey in a high-quality educational environment. We also know that we have students who might need a different type of social environment, including students who struggle with anxiety or maybe even some behavioral issues. And then by allowing them to pursue their academic work within the virtual environment would allow them to excel, whereas being in a campus with students in a face-to-face instruction might pose a challenge for them. So we know that that might be part of that flexibility. And then the personalized pace, allowing students to accommodate their different learning styles and pacing. Some students work quicker, and they might, in a face-to-face where there's a specific instructor pacing, would sometimes lend itself for a student to not find it as joyful. And so by giving them the opportunity in a virtual environment to be able to move at their own pace would allow them then to excel and to be able to move through it and feel success in that way. Now, another thing that we are talking about is the, I'm sorry, can you go back one more? Access to a broader range of courses, including advanced, specialized, and elective options. In a virtual learning program, especially with the passage of the recent Senate Bill 569, our students would be able to do dual credit. They would be able to have other advanced electives that they would have at their fingertips. So we might be able to provide other options for them that sometimes we are limited by in a face-to-face setting. And then what are our action steps? So our exploration team really did a lot of research. We talked with a lot of different districts, some very similar to our population and some not. We just wanted to get a huge understanding of all the different types of virtual learning programs there are. And so from that, we really focused on what are those practical challenges and opportunities. And what we learned from this is that the opportunities are two strategic ones. We can partner with accredited providers across the state who could then even enhance what our curriculum is now. With those partnerships, they could even assist with some of the logistics and the operations piece, which would help us as a district fiscally to not have to staff all of those positions. And there are several out there, especially with the recent bill passing. We could also expand our current district programs, like I mentioned earlier, focusing on programs that we are unable to offer at specific campuses. We may even be able to offer another pathway for students that we haven't even discovered yet. And then some of the challenges that we are very aware of are the fiscal challenges. After meeting with a northern district, they talked a lot about the fiscal challenges. It's very, there are substantial financial implications, hiring dedicated staff and making sure that we're hiring the right staff. Not every teacher can be a virtual teacher, and we want to make sure that the students who are in this learning environment are getting a teacher who understands online learning and who is able to interact with them and make them feel as connected as they would if they were in the classroom, in a face-to-face classroom. So those staffing and logistical challenges could kind of create a complex situation, but after all of that and looking through all of those pieces, we as a team met with Dr. Engel, and we knew that this is something that our team needed to continue exploring, and so we are moving into development. And we are continuing with our research with other districts, with other providers, especially now with the passing of Senate Bill 569, we have a lot more opportunities. Many of the districts that we met previously are experiencing challenges now because the new bill does ask for different requirements, and so we are actually at a great place because we'll be able to set that path and be able to find how it's going to work here in Clear Creek. One thing that was really important to us is to make sure that when we are looking into this program, that we are focusing on our students and their academic, their social, and their developmental needs. We want to make sure all three of those areas are taken care of, and that our students still feel connected to Clear Creek ISD, and that it's not just another virtual program, but one that's providing them a high quality education, and one that is by far better than anything else out there, especially with all the ones that we've heard. So we're very excited about our opportunities and look forward to what the next steps are, in which the first immediate step is waiting for TEA to release its application for the new virtual schools.
All right, thank you very much. I'll open it up. Anybody have questions, comments? Mr. President? Yes.
I am just ecstatic, having two students, one that kind of thrived during virtual learning and one that enjoyed that, in-class experience. But over the years, as we talk about flexible starting times and things like that, I think this addresses a lot of those issues, while also providing, quality content for our students that may choose to go this route. So I like to see this because, once again, it's providing an option for folks that we didn't have before. So tough work. I know, getting the framework and everything in place, finding the right staff that's going to, work in this academy, but I just think that it's the right way to go.
Thank you. Open up. Anyone else?
Yeah. Yes. I did have a question, Ms. Lane. On one of the benefits, it mentions the personalized pacing to accommodate individual learning styles. How does it, have you heard or have you seen how that looks and how that works in practice, where a student or students who are able to complete course requirements that are established at the beginning of the year as part of that course, complete it very rapidly, and how that fits into what the rest of their academic schedule looks like?
That's a great question. We actually met with a school district this week who offers that. So that option for their students. So their students are coming in and they are taking a course, and when they finish that course, then they're given the next course. And so while we can't speak to it in specific practice because we haven't seen it, we know that other school districts do that, or at least one we know of who's more than willing to meet with us again when we're ready to look at the development. But they actually have students who can complete a course in 10 weeks, and then they're ready for the next course. So it would be a way to move more quickly through their coursework and possibly even enjoy some other like electives that maybe are getting in their way. Currently, we offer Clear Access, which is what Paula leads for us, which is an online program, but it's outside of the school day. And so that's why Paula has been instrumental in helping us identify how it can, almost like how can we rebrand this so that we're providing something that's much more in depth. But as Clear Access, they do have a pacing, but those are kids who are getting extra credit outside of the school day. So now how can we make those work together?
And I think, thank you for that. I think it's helpful because right now probably most of our families who were with us during the pandemic probably use that as a point of reference as to what it looks like to do online instruction and learning and engagement. And so the chance for us to really craft and shape and ensure that both families and students have a clear sense of what that should look like, what it could look like, I think is going to be really helpful. I imagine from a budget planning perspective, for us to understand what some of the thresholds are in offering something that's a great experience that does afford students who have different learning styles that still is fiscally responsible and compatible with what we can afford. Because I think, there's a scenario, I guess, where we could have a subset of our current student enrollment, which is not growing, that suddenly find themselves attracted to do a different type of learning experience that isn't really giving us more. It simply is just shifting. And if there's a significant expense that we don't realize, a break even, I think it's just something we have to go in eyes wide open, knowing what that looks like.
And we're excited about that because if we can help kids find that right place for what they need, it meets all the diversity that we have in our district and all their different needs, no matter what they are, or family needs, cultural needs, everything.
Yeah.
So.
The last thing I'll just ask is, as this comes together, our ability to highlight what percentage of the content and instruction is truly CCISD content, because I know that was feedback that we also have gotten both from students that take credit, mostly at the high school level, I think, that are taking credit to advance or to give them scheduling flexibility during the school year. And it doesn't always look like or feel like what we normally do within the district because it's offered by a different provider. And I know some of the feedback we've gotten is that it doesn't look like it meets some of the same threshold. It doesn't look like some of the standards we would otherwise put in place. Questions that didn't appear to be aligned with content that was part of the instruction. I just know it's different if you're accepting something off the shelf versus something that our own teachers are putting together.
Right, because Clear Access is created by our curriculum and by our teachers, and so we completely agree. And that's why what's been emphasized by every district that we've met with is making sure you have the right staff and the right group of individuals who are helping deliver that, because we have great curriculum, but having the right staff in place to deliver that curriculum with students is critical.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trustee Sanchez. Does anybody else have anything else going on or ask questions?
So I'll say this. See, you were about to
I
get
know,
up. No, I'll say this, again, this was one of those conversations we had about 7-8 months ago. And as we look at the enrollment loss, we realized that hundreds of students have chosen an online option, and we want to be competitive so that we can try to keep those students here. And, timeline, y'all are working through it to, provide or, look into an option that we can, support and get behind. What is kind of the timeline? I know you mentioned you're waiting on TEA to open up applications. Do we know when that'll happen? And
we met with TEA 2 weeks ago with their program director to learn a little bit more about what would be needed, and even she's waiting, and so mid-September, probably sometime in September, she said, because she's anxious to see it as well, like what changes actually come out in the application.
So once that happens, and I don't get the sense that any of us are trying to rush anything. This is very thoughtful, mindful, as Trustee Sanchez was mentioning, all things trying to consider. So timeline, is this a 2028? Are we thinking it'll take a couple of years after applications are submitted until we can kind of get there?
Initially, our team was thinking next year, the 26-27 school year, but after meeting with TEA and the Dallas district, not sure that we would be able to put it in the EPG and have it the way that it needs to be messaged and delivered and offered to students in a way that doesn't seem rushed. So probably it would end up being the 27-28 school year. Because then we would have everything ready to go. Because even the school district that we spoke to in Dallas was kind of like, you'd have to already start messaging it in January. Like, she was very anxious for us, kind of like, would we get that out there fast enough? And we want to do it right.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, as we're looking at, the financial things, and we're, looking ahead at 28, 29, 30, it's better to do it right, than to be rushed. And we want to see it done right. And, so the fact that it's moving forward and y'all have done so much homework and research on it, it's wonderful. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Couldn't do it without Paul.
Teamwork. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have a lot going on in the district, and we are very excited about continuing to move forward. Another exploration team is dual credit for non-core courses. Dr. Lopez, Executive Director for Secondary Education, and Kristen Ford, and she's here, our Director of Counseling and Student Services, will provide an update on the development stage and some exciting possibilities for dual credit and non-core.
Yes, and just so y'all know my background, I'm very passionate about technology and CTE education. I was a technology teacher, so this is right up my alley. Dual credit opportunities for non-core courses, like certification courses, and it's speaking of with Miss Lane talking about flexibility, personalization. These courses provide that for our students. They strengthen hands-on learning for students, workforce readiness. And we do have a lot of CTE opportunities within CCISD, but we're looking to bridge that with some of our community colleges and looking for those non-core courses opportunities. Because we do have dual credit, but those dual credit opportunities right now are academic dual credit opportunities. It also increases the college connections for various students. So students that would maybe traditionally go right into the workforce, we want to make them workforce ready, more workforce ready. So that's an opportunity. And it also supports our CCMR. There's a lot of things coming down from TEA with CCMR, with our IBC, the industry-based certifications that we're continuing to explore. And there are a lot of things that we're waiting for TEA to give us more information on that as well. So we'll speak on that behalf. And then also increases the equity of access for our students. You know, there's some students that want to go right into the workforce. Well, we want to make sure that we're giving them every opportunity to be trained for that. So looking at the next slide, our welding program expansion. So we do have a lot of students interested in welding. Obviously, our program at Clearview is super successful. And so we're looking at San Jac and College of the Mainland, perhaps opening up some seats for additional students, and also having that dual credit opportunity and certifications, continued increase of certifications for welding, as we know that's a super popular program. So we're working at building those connections with San Jac and College of the Mainland to explore that.
And something else that we're very excited about is expanding our partnership with San Jac for maritime. So our committee also looked at our local industry clusters and what BAHEP says are the industries that they're hoping that we support. And so we toured San Jac's maritime facility, and we're excited to add that to our dual credit crosswalk and start that recruitment for the 25-26 school year, and hope to get our first students to actually participate in this program during the 26-27 school year. So we're very excited about this opportunity for our students.
We did meet with College of the Mainland. They are seeking opportunities with area ISDs to open up programs, spots for high school students for process technology, radiologic technology, emergency medical services, and nursing, and perhaps some additional programs. Their programs are changing often with the BAHEP. And so we're meeting with them. We met with them in the spring, and we are potentially meeting with them in the fall. We have some connections, and continue to work on building those bridges and trying to get some of our students, juniors and seniors there, to work through those programs.
And something that we talked about earlier was ensuring that we had the ability for our students to pursue their passions and their interests. And so that's something that this committee has really looked at. And so we have some other opportunities that we're continuing to explore on the next slide. We're looking at state guidance for the tiered CCMR model to really help us as we not only look at that, but also align our options for our students with the local workforce and certifications, like we talked about earlier with BAHEP. And even though this was non-academic, we're also prioritizing those pathways and expanding some academic opportunities as well. Our committee worked on non-academic and is still looking at kind of aligning all of our crosswalks. So we're very excited to help our students become career ready. Very excited to help them earn those IBC certifications and complete the aligned programs of study and earn those level 1 and level 2 certificates to help them go into the workforce.
Yeah, we're just super passionate about this. We know that not every student is seeking college bound, and so we want to find every way to help every type of student. So equity in our education is important.
Thank you. All right, open it up.
I know quite a few parents that are going to be happy about that maritime. And then, you know, with our nursing and just our medical, it's critical that we offer, you know, some of those courses to our students who I see going directly into San Jac's nursing program and some of the other, you know, local communities. And I think more importantly, it ties in with just making sure that we're, you know, keeping in close contact with our local higher education partners. You know, kind of working with them hand in hand. I think that's critical. So I like to see that.
Thank you.
And the earning potential with the welders and the maritime is unbelievable. I mean, and that's just the start. And they're coming out of those programs making a lot of money, as y'all know. And so that really excites them. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very exciting opportunity.
It really, those are really, yes. And, you know, with San Jac now offering a BSN program, you know, they can go in, they can get that 2-year, but then they can also get the BSN. And so this just opens up Pandora's box. So thank y'all. It's great.
Yes.
So when you went to the Maritime Center, Jonathan and I, when we went, We got in the simulator. Did y'all do the simulator?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. We
Got a
did
little
that.
seasick.
Yeah, I was seasick. I'm like, stop, you know. So, yeah.
It's amazing
That's
you feel like you're in
exciting.
the boat.
Yeah,
I may have wrecked it a time or two.
he did. I wasn't gonna say that out loud, but he did.
Full disclosure, I didn't drive that boat well. The welding program, see, I'm not gonna wait, sorry guys. I don't want them to get up. So, the welding program, what do the numbers look like? You know, we've been, providing it for several years now, and we look at expanding programs whenever there's need. So, what do those numbers look like for the last few years?
We only have one teacher, so it's 60.
60 with one teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and the capacity of the space, the teaching space and the bays is maxed out. So that's why we're seeking opportunities for Sandjack or COM. So if we have students that have transportation, that would be an option for them. So we're trying to work on that bridge.
So it's maxed out. Has there been a wait list?
There's a wait list.
There's a wait list to take a welding program.
Yes, sir.
So, I think those are the kind of things that, when you talk about equitable programs that we can offer in CCISD to our students and our families, if we've got a program and it's got a wait list, let us know what we need to consider in order to expand it. We've done it with culinary now. So it's on both sides of the lake. And so, there's opportunities, that we want to keep, offering to everybody.
Well, all of our, just so you know, all of our ag programs do have the construction class that does that. They do get different welding certificates, but it's not quite as in-depth as the welding program. So there is other opportunities to get some minimal welding certificates, but of course the full welding programs.
Mark.
And I would imagine to add one of those bays has to be about 10 grand easy. Just when you look at. Just from what I know.
Can't even issue a PO for 10.
What's that?
You're talking millions.
Depends on what you're.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just talking about like just the welding machine and some of the, materials that go into setting up a bay, right?
Sure, yeah, there's lots of mechanical work that has to be done for fumes and all the other pieces, so it's
And I
an
believe there was
expensive
some
space.
support from the Ed Foundation. Right.
For some of the equipment.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you're looking at partnerships though, because in our discussions, replicating that program would be cost prohibitive. And it's really that teacher that makes that program. And finding him apparently was finding a unicorn.
Right.
So I think the partnership route is probably the way to go with this.
So just keep opening it up, having partners. And a local partner I haven't heard mentioned is, on Galveston Island, and they're about to open up right there at NASA. Their little university called Texas A&M. So, hopefully there will be some opportunity. There will be some opportunities with them. They've got a great maritime program. With that, does anybody else have anything else going on?
Thank y'all.
All right, thank y'all.
Okay, we have our final exploration team is really in the implementation phase, and I'm very excited. So CCISD moves you a little bit different, a different take, is in the implementation stage. And Tammy Peckett, Director of Transportation, is here with us right down there, along with Eva De Cardenas, Director of Marketing and Community Impact. And they'll provide y'all with a quick update of CCISD moves you.
Certainly. We are delighted to share a little bit of information about this one that's a non-instructional innovative initiative, if you will, for the district. But CCISD Moves You is moving. It's very exciting. So if I just want to jog your memories a little bit, this will be the mechanism for being able to charter buses and school bus drivers for community use, whether it's transporting senior citizens to the symphony or any of our other partners, summer camps and field trips, summertime weekends, that kind of thing. The intent of the policy was to help retain and attract bus drivers and perhaps give them additional hours that they need. So, and it's also providing critical community service. That's one thing that we knew that we were getting right on this one. Just a little walk down memory lane. So back in May, you approved the policy that allowed for wording the language allowing staff to drive district vehicles for non-school purposes. And then we quickly moved to working on agreement and procedures and the rates. So Ms. Armachanic, Mr. Miller, and Ms. Pickett respectively worked on those. And so those are finalized in work. In fact, we have 2 agreements right now that are with legal for 2 partners that are very interested and want to move forward. But again, they just have to review and sign. So we're just waiting for the ink to be dry on those. And we have other interested parties that we've talked to. Matter of fact, Dr. Engel even did a little presentation recently with the AARP. And these people go everywhere on field trips all over the place. And they have to start very expensive buses. And so this was of interest to them. So I think they got really excited when she brought that up. So different kinds of community partners that we're starting to have discussions with. And no matter where you bring it up, they're, I think, really interested in hearing more. So now that those pieces are coming into place, I think it'll be a lot easier. Of course, back to the awareness, we're working on branding, marketing, and a promotion plan. I know we've got an email, and then as soon as our webmaster comes back, we can have a whole web page up that everything you ever want to know about CCSD moves you and how to charter a bus, and make it very, very user friendly. So that's kind of where we're at right now, but it's moving.
Thank you. Very exciting. All right. And I'll open up. Anybody? Comments? Well, very excited to see it in motion, no pun intended. Yeah, the community partnerships, I hope through the communication department, we're letting the community know we're doing these types of things. We're a community partner through and through, and, we have lots of buses, so, we'll get them where they need to go. So, another fun.
It ties into kind of one of your, like pet peeves, and that's making sure that we're utilizing our resources.
Oh, absolutely.
Keeping our bus drivers, engaged over the summer so we don't lose them. And then, how do we utilize some of our assets,
right?
To the fullest and still partner with, City of League City, some of our nursing homes, et cetera, to provide that service. So thank you for doing that, because it's good, for the community to realize that it's a partnership, and it takes all of us to, kind of work together. So
thanks for bringing that. Thank you. Yeah. Seeing how we utilize our resources, the district's resources. So thank you all. Thank you very much. Keep it up. All right.
Okay, yeah, so that really, we've had a lot going on, and I just want to name this. Every one of these exploration development teams has a sponsoring cabinet member who you really didn't hear from. So everyone at this table and around this table, we have sponsoring cabinet members, but then these are vibrant teams that are working with multiple people and leaders in the district. And so just thank cabinet, because all of this happens, via a cabinet sponsor, but we've got so many great people working on these ideas, and we don't want to lose the innovation and the ideas. So very grateful to everyone that is playing a part in these exciting activities, and you get people that are passionate and have an interest in a certain area, and it's pretty exciting to see where we can go. So grateful for that. So that kind of concludes our, we've been saving this. You can tell we had several, but just putting it all together so you can just really see the activity that's going on. So that concludes our presentation.
Thank you. And I, we're grateful for you and your cabinet, and for everybody to, go in 100%. Sometimes, I'll speak for myself, may have a crazy idea. But, everybody tries to embrace it, or at least says, well, let's consider it and see what we can do and where this goes from here. So thank you all very much. Lots of great things, lots of exciting things for the future for the district. So it's very excited. And so closed session. All right. So at this time, at 6:14, the board will now move to a closed session as authorized by the Texas Open Meeting Act concerning purposes permitted by the specific Texas Government Code sections listed on the agenda. So, take a break. Back in session,
I looked at that
6:56.
paper, actually. Unbelievable. Same as you, it went to sleep and wants a full reboot.
So action on closed session, Mr. McKay, do you have something you would like to share with us?
Yes, Mr. President, I move to approve the resolution renewing good cause exception for armed security officer requirement.
Thank you for the motion. Any other discussion?
When you brought us in, did you say what time it was?
I did.
Okay. Just making sure.
Got it.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all right. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And no opposed, motion passes. And at 6:57, this meeting is adjourned.